It's just magnificent. It's wonderful. I love it. I could live here. I love this wheelhouse. I love these. Pretty neat. It's really an amazing ship. Hi there. This is Captain Q. Join us as we travel hither and yon to show you some great deals on some really interesting boats and maybe learn just a little bit with each one.
Hey, Captain!
Hey, Randy. How are you, buddy?
Let's
Let me
go.
see you out there. Come on in, buddy.
Hey, permission to come aboard?
Yeah, please come aboard. Definitely come aboard. I was wondering if you would spot this when you drove up to the Front Street Boatyard here in Belfast, Maine. I mean, it's only 64 feet long, and it has 3 masts, and
Yeah, pretty noticeable from the street.
it also happens to be sort of a light blue, so pretty hard to miss. But this boat was drafted and designed by a man named George Bueller. George Bueller is a young man. He was born in 1948. We consider that young in Captain Q's house. But he was a fan of Colin Archer. Colin Archer was a Norwegian yacht builder, designer. He was born back in 1832. His first really successful design, which was a boat called a Red Ningskut, and I'm sure somebody out there from Norway will say I've really butchered that word. It was a heavy, beamy, double-ended sloop that they used for sea rescue back in the late 19th century. Colin had a kind of an interesting career in some ways. His most famous boat was a boat called Fram, and Fram was used by 2 scientists to take them to the Arctic and do some exploring and do scientific research. Bueller, George Bueller loved Colin's concept of designing strong, simple boats. He went off and designed this boat to be a research vessel for this doctor of marine bioscience connected with the Smithsonian Marine Museum of Natural History. This particular doctor, he built this boat with his son, got all the wood for the hull from his own property, which was cut down, milled, and delivered to the property where they built the boat. And it actually took them 10 years to build the boat. This boat was designed to go in what they refer to as subarctic waters, meaning they're going to go up where it's going to be tough waters, tough going, maybe some bergy bits, just little pieces of ice possibly. Very strong, heavy boat. She is 50 tons, 100,000 pounds. That size fits her into a category the U.S. Coast Guard makes it a T-boat, if they want it to be. T-boat is design parameters that the Coast Guard specify in order for somebody to have a boat this size that they want to take passengers for hire. So if you have 1 passenger on this boat for hire, then all the components of that Coast Guard law have to be in place. And that includes a lot of safety issues, mainly safety issues. There's watertight bulkheads, there's collision bulkheads forward in this boat. And I'm incredulous about the amount of design work and so forth and build that's gone into this boat. Personally, I love this wheelhouse. All your instrumentation is here for the engine. He has duplicate instrumentation up here for navigation. There's a couple of radar units. There's an open array radar unit and a closed array radar unit up on the mast of the boat.
What's the difference between closed and open?
Well, in a open array, you'll see those. You just see a big arm, and the arm swings around, just turns around. That's called an open array. And then the closed array, you don't see anything happening. It's just a dome that looks like an upside down birthday cake box. Okay, that has a dome, and it's rotating inside that. The open array, I think, tends to be a little longer distance, maybe 24 miles, maybe even longer. The closed array radar is better actually for scanning wider areas with a shorter range distance. He's got double VHF. There's AIS on board, which is the automatic identification system. This will send out a signal and also receive a signal identifying this boat, and it will also identify any boats near you. It doesn't take a picture, but it will tell you that this is a certain carrier, and you can find out how big, how fast that other boat's going, and they'll know the same thing about you. There's also a depth sounder system with a forward-looking view. So, for example, if you're pulling into a shale beach, not shallow, but a shale beach or something where stone goes down, and you want to find out how close you can go in before you start running into things, that will look ahead of the boat a little bit and give you that much more of a safety room factor for finding a good anchorage. In this chart room, we have a chart table that, of course, rivals everything we've seen before. I absolutely, look at this. We've talked about opening up the charts all the way. Look at that. And this is where we're located right now. This is Belfast Harbor in this area. And here's a detail of Belfast Harbor. Now look at this. This is just one of the drawers here with full-size charts ready to flip out and review. I mean, this is like being in the store or on the bridge of a destroyer. It's just magnificent. She's not very deep draft. I think she's maybe 6 feet or so.
Yep, 6 feet.
6 feet. Okay, she is 6 feet draft. She has a 60-foot water line. We like water line. So there's lots of water line in the boat, and her beam is 16 feet. So this is just, I can't possibly touch one side or the other. She's going to be very stable at sea. Standing right beside my good friend Randy here, you see a couple of winches. And we never saw a winch inside the boat before, did we?
No.
And turn it on. Oh, there's an electric winch.
You could do that from the couch.
You could do that from the couch, just about. But that brings a line in from off the deck there. He's thought of everything. There's nothing left to be thought of in this boat. This nice little daybed here for your off-watch companion. Library of books with guides, sailing guides, cruising guides, everything you want right here to help navigate the boat. It's wonderful. I love it. I could live here. I could go someplace in this giant boat. But speaking of which, this wonderful expedition boat is such a great adventure platform. It kind of reminds me of my daughter Hampton and her husband Mark and what they're doing with their Stevens 47 that we toured in episode 5. They have a passion for adventure, and they've been planting that seed with their children, all 4 of them. And I don't know if I told you, but Hampton just adapted Mark's New York Times bestseller, The Impossible Climb, into a young adult version. It's meant to plant the seed of adventure with other kids around the world. It's definitely worth checking out. But let's take a look below decks. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay. Here we are in the galley and the gathering spot for the boat. These tables will take 6 people. Easily. Look at all the lovely work up here. This is black walnut. We have Brazilian cherry and red oak beams here. There's a whole mixture of wonderful exotic woods. And look how neat and tidy all the dishware and cups and saucers are put away. Right beside me here, as I walk over to the port side of the cabin, we're going to walk by an amazing power center here. I'm not even going to try and tell you what all is going on here, but there are controls for 2 different generators. I think there's a 17 and a 6 kW generator. The smaller generator is designed for night use. It has a cover over it so you don't hear it when you're sleeping and you're down below. You've got a DC panel, another DC panel. This is a 120 volt side of the voltage. Here we are in the galley, and this is a little different than some things. You've got a wonderful porthole. You can look right out here and see the water rushing by. Lots of ventilation. We like that. And there's a double sink here. It's a little bit tucked away, and they're good size, actually almost homegrown size sinks. There's a little refrigeration unit under here. On this side, another board they put in, just a temporary board. You see, they could use a little bit more flat space in the galley, but she carries, I think, close to 1,700 gallons of fuel on board. Which gives her about a 2,000-mile range. Really handsome woodwork down here. Really old-time shippy kind of yachty feel to it. This door down to the engine room. This is a waterproof door down here with double latches on it. This would fit into the T rating for the Coast Guard, having this sort of structure. Just a wonderful gathering spot for the crew. We have another fridge over here. So you got 2 sections of refrigeration. Drawer storage, electrical coffee makers, toasters, a microwave oven. This is like being at home, and you're in this solid ship, and you will not know what's going on outside. This boat is so soundproof. This is just kind of nice, little feature here. A door this goes down to the master cabin, and so the master cabin down there can see what's going up. There's some wonderful glasswork down here with a merm person. Let's disappear into the owner's cabin, and we can pretend we're the owner. And here we go. This is Sirius bed. And a little couchette right beside it, a place to sit. There's some storage overhead. Right beside you here is a hanging locker and the captain's head up in the upper corner there. So I'm going to, I think we should give this a test. What do you think?
Yeah, did you bring the measuring stick?
I have the measuring stick. It's right here. Now, I'm full length on this bed, and look how much room I have left over. This is pretty good. This cabin is complete for the captain to keep track of everything going on the boat. Let me show you the other side of this cabin here, which has its own navigation station. This is a nice little place for with a couple of repeater instruments in here. Raymarine GPS, single sideband. Over here it's just a nice bureau top. Lots of drawer storage for dry goods, dry clothes, and more here, all built in. And then a nice hanging locker for your blazer and so forth. We have another collision bulkhead here. This is a very solid section with a waterproof door. So if it floods forward, this is just like being in the submarine in the movies. Quick, close the door, and you've got big bolting items here that will tighten it. This is again a Coast Guard regulation. The head, it's adequate for the captain. Nice little china bowl there, and a manual flush. There are 3 separate gray water tanks on the boat to accommodate the wastage until you can get offshore far enough. And there's a shower there as well. Overhead light and Durade provides additional ventilation and light. Really a very cozy cabin. There is electric heat throughout the boat. If we could figure out the electrical panel out there, we could warm ourselves up. But let's move on forward. There's another, and you walk through the crew head here, and there is a flush and a sink. And they'll have to use a shower aft. There's another shower aft that they can use, or go over the side and warm waters.
You can't use the captain's shower?
No. They could if they were a good crew. So we've got 4 solid built-in berths here. Tons of headroom over me. And here's a companionway out to the foredeck of the boat. And there's storage, closet storage, and dry hanging storage and so forth, and the same thing over here. This boat is going to spend a lot of time under power probably. These bunks are really big and really comfortable. This boat, by the way, will come with all of the linens you need for the crew and the captain and mate. We have another collision bulkhead up here, the big Bomar hatch there. So if we run into a freighter and take the bow off the boat somehow, which I find hard to believe, that will keep the boat afloat. All right, come on up, Randy. Welcome to my ballroom here.
Wow.
Yeah. This is the midships deck, and it's massive, 16.5 feet wide, and probably, I don't know what, 10 feet long. There's some nice little sitting area. If you had some cushions up here, you could sit and watch the world go by very comfortably. Get a good suntan and
do a little tango?
A little tango, you could. The bulwarks along the side of the boat here that are raised up and keep you and anything else from going overboard except water. 200, almost 300 gallons of water on board, plus they have an 8-gallon-an-hour water maker.
Wow.
So between the water tank, the water maker, and any catchment water you want to do, all the water you want. Notice the lifelines. I love these. You would have to be an acrobat practically to fall over these. The bowsprit here is massive, and it has great fittings all around it. There's a 100-pound CQR right here too. And look at the size of the bow rollers there. They're just enormous. And all bundled up back here is the flying jib. This is the flying jib right here, which goes up on the forestay out of the bow. And then this sail that's right along this boom is the staysail. So you've got a couple little headsails to help trim the boat out. Underneath here is a very large hydraulic Maxwell windlass, and with chain links that look like they came off the Titanic. Everything on here is just massive. But as you look around, notice the paint, notice the finish. Everything is in great shape. This boat went through sort of a 10-year overhaul back in 2013 up in Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. They painted booms, they cleaned up and fixed blocks and so on, and probably painted these spars. I think they even removed 2 of the spars to check them out. And these are all wooden spars. There's no paint chipping. Everything is just fresh. You would think this boat was just built a few years ago. This hatch is really pretty nice. It's kind of neat. I've never seen one like it. It slides sideways and then locks itself. And you have plexiglass here and here, so you've got light below decks, and it happens to fit the design of the boat. Pretty neat. There's a nice big flat sun deck up here, which would be fun to sit on a given day heading someplace. It's just inviting. So we have in this next aft section basically the research lab where the work was done and analyzed. It's a really good sized space. It has access to the engine room down here through another one of these watertight doors, and see what we find down here. Here's the Cummins diesel. It's just all been overhauled over in Nova Scotia. Well, I'd say just in 2013. So it looks like it's in pretty sprightly condition right now, just in general. Engine mounts and the tail stock on the transmission. Everything is bright and shiny. Now down behind here you see a Northern Lights box over there. That holds a small generator that they use during the nighttime to keep power on. It's in a box so it can stay quiet. They don't care. During the day when they're running, they have a bigger generator. And I think this is 17 kW maybe. It's a Cummins Onan generator. There's tons of hydraulic functioning on here. The various windlasses, bilge pumps, and things that are all run by hydraulic power. And there's a huge blue hydraulic tank over here just forward of the engine. And that supplies the hydraulic fluid for that system.
Okay.
Here's a mechanical workbench, and you can tell because we've got a nice big winch here. I mean, a big, a big vise here, and we got winches everywhere. It's so neat and tidy. The man is fanatical about keeping everything in its place. There's also a head back here too, with its own shower, and I wouldn't call that a bathtub. That just happens to be a bin down there. But see, we've got the flush and sink and shower. And a nice tall shower for the tall crew there. I think you could have great fun turning it into a dive boat, a limited cruise. There is a compressor on board so you can pump up your own scuba tanks. Here's a big, this is a big storm window closure. In really heavy seas, I mean, you want to make certain that it's really sealed up. Everything comes with the boat. It comes ready to go. Now here's our little Scheel cockpit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Henry Scheel would like this.
He would. She has massive equipment back here. There's a 3,000-pound windlass back here that's designed to set up and pull up to a guide right here to hoist whatever they want to hoist out of the water. You got a 3,000-pound hydraulically run winch. You can see the hydraulic lines coming out of the bulkhead here. We've got another collision bulkhead here, so that's all watertight, and you're standing on one too. It's just massive stuff. I think maybe I would take some of this gear and put it in my storage locker on land and save it till I come up with an idea for it. I would not do anything. I would not do away with it, and just make this into a very pleasant after cockpit. We have a 100-pound Danforth right there, anchor, so you've got a spare anchor and miscellaneous lines and ropes and so on. It also comes with a I think it's a 16-foot hard bottom dinghy with a 25 horsepower motor, and a smaller dinghy as well with I think about a 5 or 6 horsepower motor on it. It's all part of the equipment. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Feels like an 80-foot ship to me.
I'd say maybe 85.
Yeah.
Okay, Randy, here we are underneath this girl, and she is a stout ship. Unusual full body all the way the whole length of it with a very narrow and shallow keel beneath it. On the forefoot here, this is all a piece of stainless steel that runs right up to the bow and up the front of the bow just for further protection for the cutwater and so forth. And then that comes down and go past our old friend here. Look at the size of this, what do we call this?
The bow thruster.
Bow thruster. And this is a major one. This is run by hydraulics too. It's actually an I-beam down here. The I-beam itself weighs 4,000 pounds, and it runs the full length of the keel. And those blocks in there, this is all lead right here. So here's the I-beam, the bottom, the center, and the top of the I-beam. It's all bolted up to the bottom of the keel. And then this is all lead chunks, and they add up to 9,000 pounds of lead. So there's about 13,000 pounds of ballast.
It
Pretty
seems a little
massive.
unusual to have that exposed.
It doesn't matter because the I-beams are so massive. Wastage on this is going to be nil, and most of it will be underwater, and rust needs air. So there's no air underwater. It's going to tend to stay pretty tight, and then occasionally they will paint it and give it a little extra protection. This is 4 more layers of fiberglass right here that's designed for protection for anything floating they may run into, just to protect the hull that much more. The rest of it's all glass over wood. This is metal, and 36-25 prop here, complete with its own cutter. This is a little different cutter. I can't tell if they've worn it down or it's just it's a very sharp edge there. I wouldn't want to get in the way of that turning. On a 2-inch shaft here, stainless shaft. Now these zincs we talked about before, seeing the wastage. These are more than half wasted and should be replaced before she goes back in the water. Time to deal with that. But the bottom is fair. It's in great shape. Again, you can see the little edge here possibly of the extra layers of fiberglass used to protect the hull. As I said, there's no reason to put an internal chain plate in it because this is not a racing boat. And this provides a good base, a good broad base to support the mast on nice wide spreaders up there. This is really going to steady that spar. Right now they're putting what we call shrink wrap on the boat, and you see it's a large sheet of plastic. The man in the black sweatshirt has a heat gun, and he will apply heat to that plastic, and the plastic actually shrinks and tightens around the whole boat and turns it into a sort of a cocoon for the winter.
We just made it out in time, didn't we?
We did. We could have been there till spring. And I saw some rice and some old cereal in the storage area in there, but I don't think we would have lasted. All right, Randa, here we are finishing up another amazing boat today. This was an expedition Voyager, not just your day sailor for the family for a little weekend off to Casco Bay Islands. She's massive in every shape, every way and shape you possibly can imagine. 3 huge wooden spars in her, heavy oaken body, all the gear, the duplication of systems. It's really an amazing ship. This man had built 8 or 9 boats prior to this for similar expedition work, and this one was a culmination of all that knowledge rolled into this one boat. There's so many things we really liked about the boat. This could become an hour-long feature movie, actually. This boat is beyond rating, over-the-top rating. This is like rating a nuclear submarine or something. I mean, we're not all going to have access to this boat. There's a very small group of people, maybe even a tiny one-man person who might follow in this professor's footsteps. He's figured everything out right down to the last cup and saucer. So she gets to 10, and on top of that, she's so massive. She has to go over 20. She's got to go to a 25.
Wow!
Just because there's so much of her. Period. Yeah. And anybody that buys it will be buying a boat that, first of all, replication today in excess of probably $2 million. Not a simple boat, not a boat for everybody. And we're glad we had a chance to see it.
If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when the next one comes out, please hit the alert bell. And that's not desperate at all. We're having too good a time doing these things, so you can hit the bell or not.
Randy, how would I ever find out what's coming up next?
You can follow us on Instagram here
Yeah.
or Facebook here. We'll have little previews of what's coming up in our next episodes. A little bit early.
That's pretty cool. Previews. You all join me. I'm going to Instagram right now, and I'm going to find out what's coming up next week. Thank you very much.
You know, Instagram's not a place.